Imagine a town, not too big, not too small, just right. Sunny Acres was a place where kids rode their bikes, neighbors waved hello, and the smell of freshly cut grass hung in the air. But even in Sunny Acres, under the veneer of perfect lawns and matching mailboxes, trouble could brew. Our story begins not with trouble, but with Lily. Lily was a bright spark, a 10-year-old with a smile that could melt glaciers. She loved to laugh, tell jokes, and play outside more than anything. But Lily's legs didn't work like other kids. She had a condition that made it hard for her to walk long distances, or sometimes, at all. Despite this, Lily never let it dim her spirit. She had amazing parents, Sarah and Tom, who always encouraged her to chase her dreams, no matter how big. They lived in a cozy blue house on a quiet street in Sunny Acres. They were a happy family. Unbeknownst to Lily, Sarah, and Tom, Sunny Acres had a secret weapon designed to squash joy, the Homeowners Association, or HOA. And at the helm of the HOA was a woman named Karen. Karen took her job very seriously. Some might say too seriously. She saw every blade of grass out of place, every slightly crooked fence picket, every basketball hoop left out after dark. The HOA rules were her Bible, and she intended to enforce them, come what may. Little did Karen know, her rigid adherence to the rules was about to collide with Lily's indomitable spirit, leading to a showdown that would shake Sunny Acres to its core and land Karen in a place she never expected, jail. Lily's favorite thing to do was feel the sun on her face and the wind in her hair. She dreamed of running through fields of wildflowers, just like she saw in her storybooks. While running wasn't easy, she found joy in other ways. She loved to draw, filling notebooks with colorful pictures of fantastical creatures and faraway lands. She also loved to sing, belting out her favorite pop songs at the top of her lungs, much to the amusement, and occasional slight annoyance, of her parents. But more than anything, Lily loved being outside. Her parents had created a magical backyard for her, complete with a swing set, a sandbox filled with sparkly sand, and a small garden where she grew her own tomatoes and sunflowers. She would spend hours exploring this little world, pretending to be an adventurer on a grand quest. Sometimes, her friends would come over, and they would play make-believe games, building forts out of blankets and pillows, and battling imaginary dragons with sticks and cardboard swords. Lily was always the leader, her imagination sparking the most incredible adventures. She never let her physical limitations hold her back. She found creative ways to participate, often directing the action from her command center, a comfy chair strategically placed in the shade. Her spirit was infectious. Even the grumpiest neighbor couldn't help but crack a smile when they saw Lily laughing and playing. She was a ray of sunshine in Sunny Acres, reminder that even in a world obsessed with perfection, joy could always be found. And soon, that joy was about to get a whole lot bigger. Sunny Acres wasn't just a collection of houses, it was a community. Mrs. Rodriguez, with her blooming rose bushes, always had a kind word and a freshly baked cookie for everyone. Mr. Henderson, the retired carpenter, was always willing to lend a hand with any home repair project. And the teenagers, despite their reputation for being glued to their phones, organized car washes to raise money for local charities. Block parties were a regular occurrence, filled with laughter, music, and potluck dishes that stretched for what seemed like miles. Halloween was a spectacle, with every house decked out in spooky decorations and kids running from door to door, their bags overflowing with candy. Christmas was even more magical, with twinkling lights adorning every roof and a giant inflatable snowman that seemed to wave at everyone who passed by. Lily's family, Sarah and Tom, were integral to this close-knit community. Sarah volunteered at the local library, reading stories to children and organizing book drives. Tom coached the neighborhood soccer team, teaching the kids about teamwork and sportsmanship. They were always the first to offer help to anyone in need, whether it was bringing meals to a sick neighbor or helping shovel snow after a blizzard. They had chosen Sunny Acres specifically because of its strong sense of community. They wanted Lily to grow up in a place where she felt safe, loved, and supported. They believed that a strong community could overcome any obstacle, and they were determined to be a part of that strength. They cherished their neighbors, and they were grateful to be a part of such a special place. But even in the warmest of communities, a chill could sometimes creep in, especially when rules and regulations took precedence over kindness and understanding. The HOA, with its ever-watchful eye, was about to test the limits of Sunny Acres community spirit. The Sunny Acres Homeowners Association, or HOA, was a powerful entity. It dictated everything from the acceptable shade of beige for your house to the height of your lawn. The rulebook was thick, dense, and filled with clauses that seemed designed to suck the fun out of everything. There were rules about the types of plants you could grow, the number of holiday decorations you could display, and even the color of your trash cans. Violations could result in fines, and repeat offenders could face even harsher consequences. The HOA claimed it was all in the name of maintaining property values and ensuring a harmonious living environment. But to some, it felt more like living under a dictatorship. Meetings were held monthly, and attendance was mandatory. These meetings were often filled with heated debates about seemingly trivial matters, like whether or not to allow a resident to install a bird feeder or if the community should switch to LED Christmas lights. The HOA also had a team of inspectors who patrolled the neighborhood, looking for any violations. They carried clipboards and meticulously documented every infraction, sending out warning letters to homeowners who dared to step out of line. While many residents appreciated the HOA's efforts to maintain the neighborhood's appearance, others felt that it was too controlling and that it stifled individuality. They longed for a time when they could paint their houses whatever color they wanted and leave their basketball hoops out overnight without fear of retribution. The HOA, with its strict rules and unwavering enforcement, was a constant source of tension in Sunny Acres, a silent threat to the community's otherwise harmonious existence. And that tension was about to boil over. Karen, the president of the Sunny Acres HOA, was a force of nature. Or perhaps, a force of meticulously manicured nature. Her lawn was always perfectly green, her hedges perfectly trimmed, and her flower beds perfectly symmetrical. She saw the world in terms of order and conformity, and anything that deviated from her vision was simply unacceptable. She approached her role as HOA president with the same level of intensity she applied to her gardening. She saw it as her sacred duty to uphold the rules and maintain the pristine appearance of Sunny Acres. She believed that without her unwavering vigilance, the neighborhood would descend into chaos and disrepair. Some whispered that Karen enjoyed the power that came with her position. Others suggested that she was simply a perfectionist who couldn't tolerate anything less than flawless. Whatever the reason, Karen was relentless in her pursuit of rule enforcement. She spent hours poring over the HOA rulebook, searching for any loophole or ambiguity that could be exploited to further her agenda. She was notorious for sending out lengthy, passive-aggressive emails to residents who violated even the most minor rules. A slightly overgrown hedge. An improperly positioned garbage can. A child's toy left out in the yard overnight. All were met with Karen's swift and unwavering disapproval. She genuinely believed that she was doing what was best for Sunny Acres. She saw herself as a guardian, protecting the community from the forces of disorder and decline. But her rigid adherence to the rules and her lack of empathy often alienated her from her neighbors. Little did she know that her unwavering commitment to the HOA rulebook was about to lead her down a path that would have devastating consequences for both herself and the community she so desperately sought to control. Lily's world was about to get a whole lot bigger. After months of appointments with doctors and therapists, and countless hours of research by Sarah and Tom, the day had finally arrived. A large truck pulled up to their house, and two men carefully unloaded a gleaming, custom-made wheelchair. This wasn't just any wheelchair. This was a super wheelchair. It was designed specifically for Lily, taking into account her unique needs and abilities. It was lightweight and easy to maneuver, with special wheels that could handle all kinds of terrain, from smooth sidewalks to grassy fields. It even had a built-in cup holder for her favorite juice box. But the best part was that it gave Lily the freedom to move around independently. No more relying on her parents to push her. No more feeling left out when her friends were running and playing. Now, she could keep up with them, explore new places, and participate in activities she had only dreamed of before. When Lily saw the wheelchair, her eyes lit up like Christmas trees. She couldn't wait to try it out. With a little help from her parents, she climbed into the chair and grabbed the hand rims. She took a deep breath and pushed forward. The chair glided effortlessly across the floor. Lily giggled with delight. She spun around in circles, feeling the wind in her hair. She zoomed down the hallway, her laughter echoing through the house. "I can go anywhere," she exclaimed, her voice filled with joy. Sarah and Tom exchanged a look of happiness. They had worked so hard to make this happen for Lily, and seeing her so happy made it all worthwhile. They knew that this wheelchair would change her life in so many positive ways. And they couldn't wait to see what adventures she would have. Little did they know, this newfound freedom would soon put Lily on a collision course with Karen and her unwavering dedication to the HOA rules. The cul-de-sac in front of Lily's house was usually a quiet place, mostly used for parking and the occasional game of hopscotch. But now, it was Lily's personal basketball court. Tom had installed a hoop just for her, and she spent hours practicing her shots, her determination shining brighter than the afternoon sun. At first, it was a little challenging. Getting the hang of pushing the wheelchair and dribbling the ball at the same time took some practice. But Lily was nothing if not persistent. She watched videos of professional wheelchair basketball players, studying their techniques and emulating their moves. Slowly but surely, she started to improve. Her dribbling became smoother, her shots more accurate. She even developed a signature move, a quick spin in her wheelchair followed by a perfectly aimed jump shot. She loved the feeling of the ball leaving her hands, soaring through the air, and swishing through the net. It was a feeling of accomplishment, of empowerment, of pure joy. And she loved sharing that joy with her friends. Soon, the cul-de-sac became a popular gathering spot. Kids from all over the neighborhood would come to watch Lily play, cheering her on and taking turns shooting hoops. Lily was a natural leader, encouraging her friends, offering tips, and making sure everyone felt included. Even some of the adults would stop by to admire Lily's skills. Mrs. Rodriguez would bring over cups of lemonade for everyone, her heart warmed by the sight of the children playing together. The cul-de-sac had become a symbol of community, a place where everyone was welcome, regardless of their abilities or limitations. But little did they know, their idyllic scene was about to be disrupted by the arrival of Karen, the HOA president, who had a very different idea of what the cul-de-sac should be used for. And she wasn't happy about Lily's basketball game one bit. Karen had been out inspecting mailboxes. A few were slightly askew, and one resident had dared to decorate theirs with a small, non-approved sticker. The injustice. She was steaming, her clipboard clutched tightly in her hand, when she turned the corner and saw it, the cul-de-sac. It wasn't the peaceful, pristine space she expected. Instead, it was filled with children, their laughter echoing through the air. And in the center of it all was Lily, whizzing around in her wheelchair, dribbling a basketball with impressive skill. Karen's perfectly sculpted eyebrows furrowed. The cul-de-sac was not meant to be a playground. It was meant to be a space for cars to turn around, a space that was clean, uncluttered, and, above all, orderly. The sight of Lily's wheelchair, moving freely in the street, sent a shiver of annoyance down Karen's spine. In her eyes, it was an obstruction, a violation of the HOA's rules against unapproved recreational activities in common areas. Never mind that the kids were having fun, or that Lily was finally able to participate in a sport she loved. All Karen saw was a potential liability, a threat to the neighborhood's pristine image. She watched for a few minutes, her lips pursed in disapproval. The wheelchair, she thought, was far too large. It took up too much space. And the noise. The squeaking of the wheels, the bouncing of the basketball, the children's shouts, it was all so disruptive to her peaceful afternoon. She considered writing Lily's parents a warning letter, citing the HOA rules and demanding that they cease and desist all recreational activities in the cul-de-sac. But a letter felt too impersonal, too slow. Karen wanted to address this issue immediately. She wanted to restore order to the cul-de-sac, and she wanted to do it now. "There is a significant problem," Karen replied, her eyes narrowing. "It's about following the rules. And the rules clearly state that you cannot use your wheelchair in the cul-de-sac." "That's ridiculous," Tom said, his voice rising in anger. "She needs the wheelchair to move around. Are you suggesting she stay inside all day?" "I'm suggesting that you find a more appropriate place for her to play," Karen retorted, her voice unwavering. "Perhaps your backyard, or a designated park. But this cul-de-sac is off limits." "This isn't right," Sarah said, stepping closer to Karen. "Lily has a right to enjoy her life, just like any other child. And we're not going to let you take that away from her." Karen stood her ground, her eyes blazing with indignation. "I am the president of the HOA," she declared, "and I will not tolerate any violations of the rules. If you continue to use the wheelchair in this cul-de-sac, I will be forced to take further action." "Karen, you don't understand," Sarah said, her voice softening slightly, trying a different approach. "Lily has a condition that makes it difficult for her to walk. The wheelchair isn't just a toy, it's a necessity. It allows her to be independent and participate in activities that other children take for granted." Tom chimed in, "It's not just about basketball, Karen. It's about her quality of life. Before the wheelchair, she spent most of her time indoors, feeling isolated and left out. This wheelchair has given her a new lease on life. It's helped her make friends, get exercise, and feel like a normal kid." He continued, "We understand that you have rules to enforce, but surely there's room for compassion and understanding. Lily isn't hurting anyone. She's just trying to live her life to the fullest. Shouldn't we be encouraging that, rather than trying to stifle it?" Sarah added, "We've tried to be mindful of the other residents. We make sure Lily doesn't play too late, and we always clean up after her. We're not trying to cause trouble. We just want Lily to be happy." They looked at Karen, hoping to see a flicker of empathy in her eyes. They wanted her to understand that this wasn't just about a wheelchair in the cul-de-sac, it was about their daughter's well-being, her happiness, and her right to live a fulfilling life. Lily, still teary-eyed, looked up at Karen with pleading eyes. "Please," she whispered, "I just want to play with my friends." The other children, who had been listening silently, nodded in agreement. They wanted Lily to be able to play too. They didn't understand why Karen was being so mean. For a moment, Karen hesitated. She saw the sadness in Lily's eyes, the desperation in her parents' faces, and the silent plea from the other children. A tiny seed of doubt began to sprout in her mind. Maybe, just maybe, she was being too harsh. But then, she remembered the HOA rulebook, the importance of maintaining order, and her unwavering commitment to upholding the rules. And the seed of doubt withered and died. "I appreciate your explanation," Karen said, her voice cold and unwavering, "but the rules are the rules. And ignorance of the rules is no excuse for violating them." She pulled out her clipboard and pen, her movements precise and deliberate. "I'm afraid I have no choice but to issue you a formal warning," she announced, her eyes fixed on Sarah and Tom. "If this behavior continues, you will be subject to a fine of $100 for each violation." Lily gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. "A fine?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "For playing." "It's not for playing, dear," Karen corrected, her tone condescending. "It's for violating the HOA rules. And if you don't follow the rules, there will be consequences." Tom's face flushed with anger. "This is ridiculous, Karen," he said, his voice rising in frustration. "You're fining us for letting our daughter use her wheelchair. That's absurd." "I'm simply enforcing the rules," Karen retorted, her voice unwavering. "And if you don't like it, you're welcome to attend the next HOA meeting and voice your concerns. But until then, you will abide by the rules." She scribbled something on her clipboard and then tore off a sheet of paper, handing it to Sarah. "This is your formal warning," she said. "Please read it carefully and ensure that you comply with the HOA regulations in the future." She turned to leave, her back stiff and her head held high. "Good day," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. As she walked away, Sarah crumpled the warning in her hand, her eyes blazing with fury. "This isn't over, Karen," she muttered under her breath. "We're not going to let you get away with this." Tom put his arm around Lily, trying to comfort her. "Don't worry, sweetie," he said, his voice gentle. "We'll figure something out. We're not going to let her stop you from playing." But Lily couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Karen's words had been like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over her newfound joy. And she knew, deep down, that this was just the beginning of their battle with the HOA. The warning only fueled the fire. Karen, emboldened by her perceived victory, began to monitor Lily's activities more closely. She would often stand at the edge of her property, glaring at Lily and her friends as they played. If the basketball bounced too close to her lawn, she would rush out and snatch it, refusing to return it until Lily apologized for the disturbance. She started sending Sarah and Tom increasingly frequent and petty emails, complaining about everything from the length of their grass to the placement of their garden gnomes. She even accused them of violating the HOA rule against excessive noise during the day, claiming that Lily's laughter was disturbing the peace. Sarah and Tom tried to reason with Karen, but she refused to listen. She seemed to relish the power she held over them, using the HOA rules as a weapon to harass and intimidate them. They decided to attend the next HOA meeting to voice their concerns. But Karen, as president, controlled the agenda and the flow of the meeting. She skillfully deflected their attempts to speak, cutting them off and redirecting the conversation to other, less important matters. When Tom finally managed to get a word in, Karen dismissed his concerns, claiming that he was simply trying to undermine the authority of the HOA. She even accused him of being disrespectful and disruptive, threatening to have him removed from the meeting. The other residents, witnessing Karen's increasingly aggressive behavior, began to feel uncomfortable. Some even voiced their support for Lily and her family, but Karen quickly silenced them, reminding them of the importance of following the rules and respecting the authority of the HOA. It was clear that Karen was determined to win this battle, no matter the cost. She was willing to use any means necessary to enforce her interpretation of the HOA rules, even if it meant hurting a child and alienating her neighbors. The tension in Sunny Acres was reaching a breaking point, and everyone knew that something drastic was about to happen. The breaking point came on a sunny afternoon. Lily was practicing her basketball shots, her laughter echoing through the cul-de-sac. Karen, who had been watching from her window, felt a surge of anger building inside her. She couldn't take it anymore. The noise, the obstruction, the blatant disregard for her authority, it was all too much. She stormed out of her house, her face contorted with rage. She marched towards Lily, her eyes fixed on the wheelchair. "I've had enough of this," she shouted, her voice trembling with fury. "You're deliberately defying me, and I'm not going to tolerate it any longer." Before anyone could react, Karen grabbed the wheelchair, yanking it violently. Lily screamed in terror, grabbing onto the hand rims for dear life. With a sickening crack, one of the wheels buckled, sending Lily tumbling to the ground. The wheelchair, now damaged and unusable, lay on its side, a symbol of Karen's unbridled rage. The other children gasped in horror, their eyes wide with fear. Sarah and Tom, who had been inside the house, rushed out, their faces pale with shock. "What have you done?" Sarah screamed, her voice filled with anguish. "You've hurt my daughter." Tom knelt beside Lily, checking her for injuries. "Are you okay, sweetie?" he asked, his voice trembling with concern. Lily was crying uncontrollably, her body shaking with sobs. "My wheelchair," she whimpered, "it's broken." Karen stood there, panting and trembling, her face flushed with anger. She seemed to realize the enormity of what she had done, but she refused to back down. "I'm sorry, but you left me no choice," she said, her voice defiant. "You were violating the HOA rules, and I had to take action." But her words rang hollow in the face of the damage she had caused. She had not only destroyed Lily's wheelchair but also shattered her spirit and broken the fragile peace of Sunny Acres. And now, she was about to face the consequences of her actions. Consequences she never saw coming. Lily's heart was broken. The wheelchair wasn't just a piece of equipment, it was her legs, her freedom, her connection to the world. Now, it was lying in pieces on the pavement, a stark reminder of her limitations and Karen's cruelty. She couldn't understand why Karen would do something so mean. Why would she deliberately try to hurt her? What had she done to deserve this? The tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision and clouding her thoughts. Sarah and Tom were beyond outraged. They had tried to reason with Karen, to explain Lily's situation, to appeal to her sense of humanity. But Karen had remained deaf to their pleas, blinded by her obsession with rules and order. Now, she had crossed a line. She had not only verbally harassed them but had also physically harmed their daughter and destroyed her property. This was no longer about HOA rules, it was about basic human decency. "I'm calling the police," Tom said, his voice trembling with anger. "This is assault and destruction of property. She can't get away with this." Sarah nodded in agreement, her face grim. "And we're going to file a complaint with the Department of Justice," she added. "What she did is a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. She needs to be held accountable for her actions." They helped Lily up and carried her inside the house, their hearts aching with sorrow and anger. They knew that repairing the wheelchair would be a challenge, both financially and logistically. But they were determined to do whatever it took to restore Lily's freedom and independence. As they sat with Lily, comforting her and reassuring her that everything would be okay, they couldn't help but feel a sense of despair. They had moved to Sunny Acres seeking a peaceful and supportive community. But now, their dream had been shattered by one person's obsession with power and control. And they knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. But they were determined to fight for Lily's rights and to ensure that Karen paid the price for her actions. The battle for Sunny Acres had just begun. With Lily safely inside, Tom dialed 911, his hand shaking with anger. He explained the situation to the dispatcher, emphasizing the fact that Karen had deliberately damaged Lily's wheelchair, knowing that it was essential for her mobility. "She intentionally destroyed my daughter's medical equipment," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "This is not just a property dispute, it's a violation of her rights as a person with a disability." Sarah took the phone and spoke to the dispatcher, highlighting the potential violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. "My daughter has a right to access public spaces and participate in community activities," she explained. "Karen's actions were discriminatory and illegal. We want her arrested and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." The dispatcher assured them that officers would be dispatched to their location immediately. As they waited for the police to arrive, Sarah and Tom tried to comfort Lily, who was still sobbing quietly. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," Sarah said, stroking Lily's hair. "The police are coming, and they're going to help us." Tom added, "Karen can't get away with this. She needs to learn that her actions have consequences." Within minutes, 2 police cars arrived at the scene, their sirens wailing. Officers Miller and Jones emerged from the vehicles, their expressions serious. They approached Sarah and Tom, asking them to explain what had happened. Sarah and Tom recounted the entire story, from Karen's initial complaints about Lily's wheelchair to her final act of destruction. They showed the officers the damaged wheelchair, pointing out the broken wheel and the scratches on the frame. Officer Miller examined the wheelchair carefully, his expression grim. "This is definitely not okay," he said, shaking his head. "We're going to have to take a statement from Ms. Karen and investigate this matter thoroughly." Officer Jones turned to Sarah and Tom. "We understand that this is a difficult situation for your family," she said, her voice compassionate. "We want to assure you that we will do everything we can to ensure that justice is served." The wheels of justice had begun to turn, and Karen was about to find out that her actions had far-reaching consequences. Officer Miller approached Karen's house, while Officer Jones stayed with Lily's family. He knocked on the door, and after a moment, Karen answered, her expression a mixture of anger and defiance. Officer Miller explained that they were investigating a report of property damage and possible assault. He asked Karen for her version of events. Karen, still unrepentant, launched into a tirade about the HOA rules, the obstruction caused by Lily's wheelchair, and the disrespectful behavior of Lily's parents. She insisted that she was simply enforcing the rules and that she had no choice but to take action. That wheelchair was creating a hazard, she said, her voice rising in pitch. It was blocking the cul-de-sac and preventing cars from turning around. And the noise. The children were constantly screaming and shouting. It was a complete disruption to the peace and quiet of this neighborhood. Officer Miller listened patiently, taking notes on his notepad. He then asked Karen directly if she had damaged the wheelchair. Karen hesitated for a moment, then admitted that she had moved the wheelchair, but claimed that it was an accident that it had been damaged. "I just wanted to move it out of the way," she said. "I didn't mean to break it." Officer Miller then interviewed several neighbors, including Mr. Henderson and Mrs. Rodriguez, who had witnessed the incident. They confirmed that Karen had deliberately damaged the wheelchair in a fit of rage. Mr. Henderson testified that he saw Karen grab the wheelchair and yank it violently, causing it to break. Mrs. Rodriguez added that she heard Karen shouting at Lily and her parents before the incident. The officers also spoke to the other children who had been playing with Lily. They corroborated the neighbors' accounts, confirming that Karen had intentionally damaged the wheelchair. After gathering all the evidence and interviewing all the witnesses, the officers returned to their patrol cars to discuss their findings. It was clear that Karen's actions were not justified and that she had likely violated the law. The question now was what charges to file and how to proceed. The investigation was far from over. Officer Miller returned to Karen's doorstep, his face grave. He explained to her that based on their investigation, they had reason to believe that she had violated the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. "Ms. Karen," he said, his voice calm but firm, "the ADA prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities. That includes denying them equal access to public spaces and activities." He continued, "By damaging Lily's wheelchair, you not only destroyed her personal property but also deprived her of her ability to participate in community activities. That is a clear violation of federal law." Karen scoffed. "That's ridiculous," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "I was just enforcing the HOA rules. I had no idea that wheelchair was so important to her." Officer Miller sighed. "Ignorance of the law is no excuse, Ms. Karen," he said. "And frankly, based on the evidence we've gathered, we don't believe that you were simply enforcing the HOA rules. We believe that you acted out of malice and discrimination." He explained that the ADA carries significant penalties, including fines and even imprisonment. He urged Karen to cooperate with the investigation and to seek legal counsel immediately. "This is a serious matter, Ms. Karen," he said. "And it's only going to get worse if you continue to deny responsibility for your actions." Karen remained defiant, refusing to acknowledge the severity of her situation. She insisted that she had done nothing wrong and that she was being unfairly targeted. Officer Miller shook his head in disbelief. He had encountered stubborn individuals before, but Karen's level of denial was truly astounding. He knew that he had no choice but to proceed with the arrest. He just hoped that Karen would eventually come to her senses and realize the gravity of her actions. The consequences of her obsession with rules and order were about to come crashing down on her. "I am not cooperating with this ridiculous charade," Karen declared, her voice rising in indignation. "I have done nothing wrong. I was simply enforcing the HOA rules, as is my duty as president." She crossed her arms and glared at Officer Miller. This is all a misunderstanding, she insisted. That child and her parents are deliberately trying to undermine my authority and disrupt the peace of this community. I will not stand for it. Officer Miller sighed. Ms. Karen, he said, his voice weary, we have interviewed witnesses who have testified that you intentionally damaged the wheelchair. We have evidence that suggests your actions were motivated by malice and discrimination. We have given you every opportunity to explain your side of the story and to take responsibility for your actions. He continued, but you have refused to cooperate with our investigation, and you continue to deny any wrongdoing. Therefore, I have no choice but to place you under arrest. He reached for his handcuffs, his expression grim. Ms. Karen, you are under arrest for destruction of property and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you. Karen's eyes widened in disbelief. You can't do this, she shrieked, her voice filled with panic. I'm the president of the HOA. I have rights. I'm a respected member of this community. Officer Miller ignored her protests and placed the handcuffs on her wrists. Let's go, Ms. Karen, he said, his voice firm. It's time to face the consequences of your actions. As Officer Miller led Karen towards the patrol car, she continued to protest her innocence, insisting that she was simply enforcing the HOA rules. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The consequences of her obsession with rules and order were about to become very real. And Sunny Acres would never be the same again. As the patrol car pulled away, sirens silent, a hush fell over Sunny Acres. The neighbors who had gathered to witness the arrest stood in stunned silence, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock, disbelief, and perhaps, a hint of satisfaction. Mrs. Rodriguez shook her head sadly. I never thought it would come to this, she murmured, her voice barely audible. Karen was always so strict, but I never imagined she would do something like this. Mr. Henderson nodded in agreement. She let the power go to her head, he said. She forgot that we're all just neighbors, trying to live our lives. Back at Lily's house, Sarah and Tom watched from the window, their arms around each other. They felt a sense of relief that Karen had finally been held accountable for her actions. But they also knew that the arrest was just the first step in a long and difficult process. They still had to figure out how to repair or replace Lily's wheelchair, and they had to prepare themselves for the legal battles that lay ahead. But for now, they allowed themselves to feel a small measure of hope. Maybe, just maybe, Sunny Acres could begin to heal and rebuild its sense of community. Inside, Lily was still shaken by what had happened. But she was also comforted by the love and support of her parents. She knew that they would do everything in their power to make things right. Later that evening, news of Karen's arrest spread like wildfire throughout Sunny Acres. Residents took to social media to express their outrage and to offer their support to Lily and her family. Some called for Karen to be immediately removed from her position as HOA president. Others demanded that the HOA rewrite its rules to be more inclusive and compassionate. It was clear that Karen's actions had not only damaged Lily's wheelchair but had also damaged the reputation of the HOA and shaken the foundations of Sunny Acres' community spirit. But from the ashes of this crisis, a new sense of determination was beginning to emerge. A determination to build a more inclusive, compassionate, and just community for everyone. The arrest of Karen marked not the end of the story, but the beginning of a new chapter in the life of Sunny Acres. The news of Karen's arrest spread like wildfire through Sunny Acres, carried on the winds of social media and whispered across perfectly manicured lawns. The initial reaction was one of shock and disbelief. Karen, the seemingly unshakable pillar of order and conformity, arrested? It was almost too much to comprehend. I just can't believe it, exclaimed Mrs. Peterson, a longtime resident and staunch supporter of the HOA. Karen was always so dedicated to keeping our neighborhood pristine. I never thought she would do anything illegal. Mr. Johnson, another resident, echoed her sentiments. She could be a bit strict at times, but she always had the best interests of the community at heart. This is all so bizarre. But as the details of the incident emerged, Sjok gradually gave way to outrage and anger. People began to realize the extent of Karen's actions and the devastating impact they had on Lily and her family. The online forums and social media groups dedicated to Sunny Acres buzzed with activity. Residents shared their stories of Karen's overzealous enforcement of the HOA rules, her petty complaints, and her lack of compassion. Some even confessed that they had secretly admired Karen's dedication, but now they saw her in a completely different light. They realized that her obsession with order and control had blinded her to the needs and rights of others. The news also reached the local media, and soon, Sunny Acres was the focus of unwanted attention. Television crews descended on the neighborhood, interviewing residents and filming the damaged wheelchair. The story quickly went viral, attracting attention from across the country. People were outraged by Karen's actions and expressed their support for Lily and her family. The HOA, once a symbol of community pride, was now a laughingstock. The organization's website was flooded with angry comments and negative reviews. It was clear that Karen's arrest had not only shattered her own reputation but had also tarnished the image of Sunny Acres and the HOA. The community was reeling from the shock and struggling to come to terms with what had happened. But amidst the chaos and turmoil, a new sense of unity was beginning to emerge. A unity built on compassion, understanding, and a shared determination to create a better future for Sunny Acres. As the dust settled from Karen's arrest, a remarkable transformation began to unfold in Sunny Acres. The initial shock and anger gave way to an outpouring of compassion and support for Lily and her family. The community, once fractured by Karen's divisive actions, began to heal and unite. Neighbors who had previously kept to themselves started reaching out to Sarah and Tom, offering words of encouragement and offers of assistance. Mrs. Rodriguez brought over a casserole, her eyes filled with tears as she apologized for not speaking out sooner against Karen's behavior. Mr. Henderson, the retired carpenter, volunteered to try and repair the damaged wheelchair, using his skills and expertise to restore Lily's freedom. The teenagers organized a car wash to raise money for a new wheelchair, their energy and enthusiasm infectious. The local church held a prayer vigil for Lily and her family, and the community center organized a fundraising event, complete with a bake sale, a raffle, and a silent auction. Strangers from across the country sent cards, letters, and donations, touched by Lily's story and inspired by her resilience. The online fundraising campaign for a new wheelchair quickly surpassed its goal, raising thousands of dollars in a matter of days. Lily's classmates rallied around her, offering her friendship and support. They created a "Welcome Back Lily" banner and planned a special surprise for her return to school. Even some of the HOA members, who had previously supported Karen, expressed their remorse and vowed to work towards creating a more inclusive and compassionate organization. It was as if Karen's actions had inadvertently unleashed a tidal wave of kindness and generosity, washing away the negativity and division that had plagued Sunny Acres for so long. Lily, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, began to smile again. She realized that even though Karen had tried to take away her freedom, she had also inadvertently brought the community closer together. She knew that her wheelchair would eventually be replaced, but more importantly, she knew that she was surrounded by people who loved her, supported her, and believed in her. And that was something that no one could ever take away. The true spirit of Sunny Acres, long hidden beneath layers of rules and regulations, had finally been revealed. And it was beautiful. The arrest of Karen sent the Sunny Acres HOA into a state of turmoil. The remaining board members, horrified by her actions and the negative publicity they had generated, knew they had to take swift and decisive action to distance themselves from her. A special meeting was called, and after hours of heated debate, the board voted unanimously to begin impeachment proceedings against Karen. They cited her violation of the ADA, her destruction of property, and her conduct unbecoming of an HOA president as grounds for her removal. The impeachment process was outlined in the HOA bylaws, and it involved a formal hearing, where Karen would have the opportunity to defend herself. However, Given the overwhelming evidence against her and the widespread outrage in the community, it was clear that her impeachment was all but certain. The board also announced that they would be conducting a thorough review of the HOA rules and regulations, with the goal of making them more inclusive and compassionate. They pledged to work with residents to create a community where everyone felt welcome and respected. The announcement was met with cautious optimism by the residents of Sunny Acres. They appreciated the board's efforts to address the situation, but they also knew that there was still a lot of work to be done. Some residents called for the entire HOA to be disbanded, arguing that it was inherently flawed and prone to abuse. Others suggested that the HOA should be replaced with a more democratic and community-driven organization. The debate over the future of the HOA continued to rage, but one thing was clear: Sunny Acres was determined to learn from its mistakes and to create a better future for itself. The impeachment of Karen was just the first step in a long and difficult process, but it was a necessary step towards healing and reconciliation. And it sent a clear message that discrimination and intolerance would not be tolerated in Sunny Acres. The community was finally ready to move forward, leaving Karen's reign of terror behind them. Just weeks after the incident, another truck pulled up to Lily's house. This time, it wasn't delivering a replacement wheelchair, but a new and improved wheelchair. Thanks to the overwhelming success of the community fundraising efforts, Lily was getting an even better model than the one Karen had destroyed. This new wheelchair was a marvel of engineering. It was lighter, faster, and more maneuverable than her previous one. It had all-terrain tires that could handle any surface, a powerful motor that could climb hills with ease, and a comfortable seat with extra support. It even had a built-in sound system for playing music and a detachable basket for carrying books and toys. But the best part was that it was customized with Lily's favorite colors and designs. It was painted a vibrant shade of blue, with sunflowers and butterflies adorning the frame. Lily's name was emblazoned on the backrest in glittery letters. When Lily saw the new wheelchair, her face lit up with joy. She couldn't believe how beautiful and amazing it was. She hugged her parents tightly, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She climbed into the chair and took it for a spin, her laughter echoing through the neighborhood. She zipped around the cul-de-sac, performing tricks and showing off her new ride to her friends. The new wheelchair was more than just a replacement, it was a symbol of the community's love and support. It was a testament to Lily's resilience and her ability to overcome adversity. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope and kindness can prevail. Lily knew that she would never forget what Karen had done to her. But she also knew that she wouldn't let Karen's actions define her life. She would use her new wheelchair to explore the world, to make new friends, and to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities. She would show Karen and the world that nothing could stop her from achieving her dreams. And she would do it with a smile on her face and a song in her heart. The true spirit of Lily, fueled by the love and support of her community, was unstoppable. The day Lily returned to the cul-de-sac, the atmosphere was electric. Word had spread throughout Sunny Acres that she would be back playing basketball, and everyone wanted to be there to show their support. The cul-de-sac was transformed into a festive gathering place. Balloons and streamers adorned the houses, and a banner that read, "Welcome back, Lily," was strung across the street. Neighbors set up tables with snacks and drinks, and a local musician played upbeat music on his guitar. As Lily wheeled herself into the cul-de-sac, a cheer erupted from the crowd. She smiled shyly, her heart swelling with gratitude. She saw her friends, her family, her neighbors, all there to celebrate her return. She took her place on the makeshift basketball court, her new wheelchair gleaming in the sunlight. Her friends gathered around her, eager to play. The game began, and Lily was in her element. She dribbled the ball with ease, maneuvering her wheelchair with precision and skill. She made shot after shot, her laughter echoing through the cul-de-sac. The other children cheered her on, taking turns playing alongside her. Even some of the adults joined in, showing off their own basketball skills, or lack thereof. The game was more than just a game, it was a symbol of unity, resilience, and the power of community. It was a celebration of Lily's spirit and her ability to overcome adversity. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over Sunny Acres, Lily paused for a moment, taking in the scene around her. She saw her friends, her family, her neighbors, all smiling, laughing, and enjoying each other's company. She realized that Karen may have tried to take away her freedom, but she had ultimately failed. Because Lily's spirit was unbreakable, and the community's support was unwavering. And in the end, love and kindness would always triumph over hate and intolerance. The battle for Sunny Acres had been won, and Lily was leading the way towards a brighter future. As Lily celebrated her return to the cul-de-sac, Karen's world was crumbling around her. The legal proceedings against her moved forward swiftly, fueled by the overwhelming evidence and the public outcry. She was formally charged with destruction of property and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The judge set a trial date, and Karen was ordered to stay away from Lily and her family. The HOA board completed its impeachment proceedings, and Karen was unanimously removed from her position as president. She was also banned from serving on the board in the future. As she awaited trial, Karen found herself ostracized by the community she had once sought to control. Neighbors who had previously admired her now avoided her, casting disapproving glances in her direction. Her phone stopped ringing, and her email inbox remained empty. She was a pariah, shunned and isolated. During the trial, the prosecution presented a compelling case, highlighting Karen's discriminatory behavior and her deliberate act of violence against Lily. Several witnesses testified against her, including Mr. Henderson, Mrs. Rodriguez, and Lily's parents. Karen, still defiant, insisted that she had done nothing wrong and that she was simply enforcing the HOA rules. But the jury didn't buy it. They found her guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Karen to community service, anger management classes, and a hefty fine. She was also ordered to pay restitution to Lily's family for the cost of the damaged wheelchair. In the aftermath of the trial, Karen retreated into isolation, her reputation shattered and her life in ruins. She was a cautionary tale, a reminder that power and control can corrupt even the most well-intentioned individuals. And that discrimination and intolerance will always be met with justice. Her actions had not only harmed Lily and her family but had also destroyed her own life and left a lasting scar on the community of Sunny Acres. The rules she so fiercely defended ultimately condemned her. The story of Sunny Acres serves as a powerful reminder that true community is built not on rigid rules and regulations, but on empathy, understanding, and respect for all. It shows us that even in the most seemingly perfect places, prejudice and intolerance can take root, but that with courage, compassion, and a commitment to justice, they can be overcome. Lily's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of fighting for what is right, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It reminds us that disabilities should not be seen as limitations, but as unique aspects of human diversity that deserve to be celebrated and embraced. It teaches us that the Americans with Disabilities Act is not just a law, it's a promise that everyone, regardless of their abilities, has the right to access public spaces, participate in community activities, and live a life of dignity and respect. And it underscores the vital role that communities play in creating a more inclusive and just world. By rallying around Lily and her family, the residents of Sunny Acres send a powerful message that discrimination will not be tolerated and that everyone deserves to be treated with kindness and compassion. Let us all learn from the story of Sunny Acres and strive to create communities where everyone feels welcome, valued, and supported. Let us challenge prejudice and intolerance wherever we find it, and let us stand up for the rights of people with disabilities. Because in the end, it is our shared humanity that binds us together, and it is our collective responsibility to create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. And as Lily continues to play basketball in the cul-de-sac, surrounded by her friends and neighbors, she serves as an inspiration to us all, reminding us that anything is possible when we embrace inclusivity, understanding, and respect. Sunny Acres, once